Hey guys, hope everyone's great. I've been slightly ill for the past few days, but hopefully everyone can hear me clearly. I'll try to cover a few topics that I've prepared. I was kind of battling with myself what exactly to talk about and how to describe it in a way that I want it to be described. Plus, I want to go through some charts and obviously expectations for the next few weeks, few months. So let's start with two most important things I wanted to cover before I jump to the Bitcoin and equities. So I think there are two biggest problems for people when it comes to trading. Like when I look at the crypto Twitter, when I look at the community on Corgi calls, when I look at the people I know that I've been following, some crypto related Instagrams and TikToks and so on, there are two common denominators why people are struggling in this environment, and I want to cover them very quickly. So the first one is algorithm. And I know a lot of you guys are heavily on crypto Twitter, I am too. And I'll put it out there first. I firmly believe that if you don't use Twitter for anything crypto related, or you have very limited following, like maybe 5 notifications on 5 people, 5 accounts at the most, you will be in way better situation than you are right now in a few months from now, a year from now. I think crypto Twitter and current algorithm is absolute cancer, and it got worse, and it only will get worse over time. That's how I see that. And now, the first point to cover, I think right now, I don't think it is true that we are in like the biggest insider cycle ever since Trump took over. I'm not gonna get deep dive into that, but you guys probably saw plenty of reports about huge accounts buying before the announcements, before his speeches and so on. There's this meme going around, I have it somewhere on Twitter. Doesn't matter, I'll find it later. Where basically, Trump is late to his speech because him and his buddies are making sure that they are in all the trades, they're supposed to be before the speech happens. And it's already proven they know the small buys. They are accounts having billions of volume, billions, not millions, in option calls, in leverage trades and so on. Sometimes minutes before speech or minutes just after. And it's weirdly correct directional position. So obviously that's proven, and I think we are living in that slope cycle that insiders are taking the full advantage of it, and Trump probably gonna leave the office as one of the richest person in the world, unfortunately. But besides all of that, and obviously you can assume that all the news pushed by the outlets and pushed by the most popular news accounts and so on are heavily controlled by some entities in order to create the chaos in the market and for the insiders to profit as much as possible. Algorithm also pushes that heavily on you as well. Like there was that account making a test. They made 2 separate accounts at the beginning of a conflict with Iran, and one account was just heavily skewed towards the pro-Iranian informations on Twitter, and other account was pro-Israeli, pro-US. And those accounts were vastly different. Like if you look at those 2 different accounts, how the war is perceived, who is winning, what is destroyed, what is actually happening is so different that you'll think that they're talking about completely different conflicts. And sadly, that's how it is, and that's how people see that on Twitter, that Some will follow accounts that they are skewed towards the pro MAGA or pro liberal and so on, and that's what you're gonna see on your Twitter. And it's very heavily pushed right now. You can test it yourself, and it's basically programming you to see the market in a way that algorithm wants you to see, and it's fucking up most of the people unless you have a very strong your own conviction, and you have accounts that you can kind of cross-reference your own opinion and knowledge and so on, and you filtered that in a very good way. You are getting absolutely obliterated by the market, but by the algorithm, just by following multiple accounts, and we're just getting fed that crazy amount of fake news and AI slop and so on recently, and it's only getting worse. So just based on that, I'll suggest everyone just to try it. Make even a new account, or just assuming you don't have a huge account and accounts you follow so much, just save what you have right now, then unfollow most of the accounts and keep only 4 or 5 good ones, or just do like the Twitter hiatus, that you stop actually checking news on a Twitter and take trades based on that, and see how your performance will improve. I think a lot of people, most of the people are getting fucked because of that, and I believe that could be game changer for a lot of people if you basically stop following crypto Twitter. And problem is as well, just to add a little bit to that, is that a lot of accounts, the very popular accounts, the with 200, 300, 400k followers, they were born in like 2017, 18, 19, maybe 2020. Like if you look at the date created, and those most famous accounts and KOLs, they went through basically buying Ethereum, Bitcoin, altcoins for absolute peanuts around the COVID, just before the COVID and so on. And there was that point that whatever you bought around the COVID flush and just after, you could basically hold any of the top 100 coins and make at least 10x in the next year and a half, 2 years. Just imagine, even if you don't use leverage, how much money was there. Unfortunately I joined a bit later, but like those accounts went from 5k, 2k followers to hundreds of thousands. And what is happening when the bear market hits, you will notice that from around November, December, like after they've noticed that top is in, because after October crash there was still a lot of posts about we're getting higher and so on. There was that period from like late November, early mid-January, that a lot of big accounts realized that the top is in and there's no point of posting bullish slop, and they got extremely quiet, or they just pivoted to peptides and completely different topics, gym and so on. Like suddenly they stopped talking about crypto, and they just in survival mode, and they post whatever is trendy, whatever they feel like they will maintain the growth of the account, and they'll go absolutely crazy posting when it's already when we already bottomed. See them posting that like I told you so and so on, when market is significantly higher, and everyone will forget the crazy predictions when Bitcoin was 110k, 120k, or calling 27 fucking bottoms since January all the way up to April, May, whenever we bottom, and so on. So you have to also bear that in mind. Like we saw that already for last cycle how it works, and it's gonna happen in the same way, you know. So first and foremost, I'll remove or heavily limit your activity on a crypto Twitter. I mean, cherry pick the best accounts, engage, have fun with that. But the less is more, the less is better in general. Oh, I click something. And the next thing is the bias. And I think with the current market, we're so heavily based on the news and insider trading, like since Trump took over, and I think we had a pretty good confirmation in the last few months that nobody really knows what exactly will happen. And I used to do pretty accurately these predictions how market will behave in the previous cycle for the past few years. Now I'm just not exactly keen of trying to figure it out exactly what will happen each month, where we bottom and so on, because it's so uncontrollable with all the news and, with basically the orange madman in charge. And I think the problem is that a lot of people are marrying bias. And to explain bias, like you can be biased towards the meme coins, towards the specific altcoins, specific community, NFTs, but also biased towards just bullish or bearish outlook, And if you marry it to the certain bias through the extended period of time, that's how you're going to perceive the market. You're going to see every pump as an opportunity to short, or if you're bullish, you're gonna see every dump as the opportunity to long. If you in your favorite altcoin, I mean, there are still some deranged players that holding Cardano and believe that is a game-changing tech or XRP. There are still people just like adding to XRP after everything will happen, and they just like, oh, XRP to 1000 is still going to happen, it's just the short-term noise and all that bullshit, And I think in this market everyone should realize that the more fluid you are, the better you will do. And I mean, for example, I'm a huge fan of Hyperliquid, and I think Hype is probably one of the best, if not the best, investments you can do in terms of crypto over the next few months, and I'm expecting huge return from that over the next year or so. But also, if there is something, there will be like warning signs that they decrease the buybacks, they will triple the size of the team, they do some stupid regulation wherever. Like, if there are reasons for me to being less bullish on it, I'll be vocal about it too, and I might change my stance. I just don't want to assume that there are any guarantees in this market, because I think we realize that anything can happen. I mean, for the past 13-14 months since Trump took over, we had first time in history like 5 Sigma events so many times, like the biggest pump since 1980s on silver or gold, and the biggest dump on gold and silver within 24 hours, and some crazy returns on long dated bonds, insane volatility on volatility index, crazy spikes on oil, and just so many different things. And we're not talking about the smaller market caps. Like, I mean, gold is 30 trillion market cap, and the volatility of that is like altcoin right now. It's insane. I mean, you had Nasdaq today being minus 2% before the US session. Zero news, nothing fucking happened. They just posted the news about some negotiations about the opening Strait of Hormuz led by Iran and Oman. It was taken out of the context. It was what will happen after the war, and market pumped on that from minus 2% to plus 0.30 or 0.40%. I mean, before Trump, having 2% move on the market was fucking huge. Most of the time SPX and Nasdaq was very boring. Most of the days were like, 0.2, 0.3% return on either way. Very fucking slow. And here we have a volatility that you're getting -2, -3% days on the largest indexes in the world. So getting back to the bias topic, I think bias is the biggest, if not or second biggest killer after algorithm and crypto Twitter of your portfolio. And I don't know how else to describe it really, but you should just assume that everything can happen and everything is possible in this market, and you should be as open and as adaptable as possible. Like, let's say to every position you have, you should have invalidation. Like, for example, recently we talked, I think in the previous video, we're somewhere here with Bitcoin. And if you check the previous video, we're somewhere here on Bitcoin just before that pump, I think somewhere around 69. Right about here. And I talked about possibility that there's 70.5 resistance, and if we flip it, then next one is 72, and above that there's room to go into 676 and possibly even 80Ks. There's a lot of inefficiencies to fill out. And after it happened was pretty clear bull flag. We broke out. After it happened, it was very simple to have that invalidation here at 72,000. That basically, as long as we hold above, you can talk about higher targets. But the moment we accept below 72, this is confirmed another deviation, and we're gonna flush back down. That's exactly what happened. I mean, the moment we had acceptance here below 72K on daily, we flushed back down pretty much to 74, 75K, and that was my invalidation, and there was zero reason to hold any longs after we accepted below it, But so many people just getting trapped in longs and shorts and both ways just by marrying the bias. And the problem with that, and we saw that with NFTs and altcoins, that you bought something, and that's how usually the price action works. Like, a lot of people, regardless, like we can use Bitcoin as an example. The biggest interest for Bitcoin was over here, right? Like, everyone talked about it, everyone started talking about crazy targets and so on. So let's say you bought somewhere between 105K to 125K right over here, and then things are turning somewhere here. You start fearing like, fuck, I mean, we back to my entry a little bit below, and right about here you're thinking, oh, I'm just gonna sell on the next pump. You're getting that next pump over here, and it's like, oh, maybe that was just temporary, and we're getting back to all-time highs, and that was just bearish retest, and we're flashing here. Right about here you're thinking, oh, I mean, I just wanted to go back to the previous price here, then I'll definitely sell. Then we pump a little bit here, sell off a little bit here, and you're like, oh, we're very close to that price. You're just waiting, and then market obliterated. And at this point you're just like, what the fuck you gonna do? You just community member, and you are Bagholder, and you're 50% down. And that's what happened with NFTs and meme coins, just on a way more brutal scale. I mean, I remember we had we are in Useless as the community on Corky calls. They listed somewhere here. Don't remember exactly. Let me check there's some longer chart. Maybe Bybit has a longer chart. Not really. Well, anyway, Useless launched earlier. I remember buying it. I think it was like 70 million or something like that. So probably if we look on the DEX screen and launch somewhere here, pumped, and then, you know, exchanges started listing it, and then was that pump to what, 400 million, and we're taking profits along the way here. I think I didn't even get to those. I think I sold everything at like 250, 300 million. I think Husky did very well with that too. And you have this big flush. Everyone is like, oh no, it's a great buying opportunity. It pumped. Everyone was talking about the next coin to billion, whatever. And now it was just basically down only since then. And just imagine the amount of people, like if you look at the guy like Unipix talking about this coin for so long, and he was bullish here and bullish here and bullish here and bullish here. I mean, if you look on the average post he did, probably average pump post he did was somewhere around here. So even for average person, you know, following his call, it's a minus 90%, and they still have probably 60, 70, 80,000 holders. I mean, it's just insane. And I'm sure at some point, if it doesn't die out, you know, you're gonna see something like that. It's gonna, you know, do this and eventually have some crazy pumps. Same for like Firecoin or SPX 500 and whatever. No, so XPX 6900 or whatever that name is. But the point being is, don't be married to the deadwood and don't be married to your bias. Like if something going in opposite direction and you're holding, let's say, I don't know, Cardano, and you see Bitcoin dumping, equities dumping, Ethereum dumping, hype dumping, like what is the fucking reason to hold the Cardano if everything else is flashing down? And the good thing, if you sell something and it dumps 50 or 60%, you can buy it 50, 60% cheaper. So even if you lost some, you can potentially, if you're still bullish on a coin, probably buy exactly the same amount of coins, if not more. But I'm just saying consistently, even in this market, like people just marrying the bias, the favorite coins and communities just because they've been there long enough, and that is just the best way to get wrecked. And very often those crusty old coins, meme coins, they're just gonna eventually, they're gonna underperform the new stuff. I mean, hype already overperforming every single major coin for the past, you know, 3-4 months, and pretty much the same thing happened during the bull market last year, and probably the same thing will happen with the current economics, buybacks, revenue, and so on. So that will means if you look on a CoinGecko, you'll see probably flipping, you know, coins like XRP, Solana, Cardano, and so on. I think it flipped already Cardano, etc. But there's still people stuck in the same positions for sometimes few years just because they married to the bias. So just to summarize, don't be a bear, bull. Both of that is bullshit. I mean, I like to post bearish when I'm in shorts and post bullish when I'm in longs because that's how I feel. But it can change in a few hours a day, and I'm just not marrying any bias. I just want to be as prepared as possible. So basically that's I think two biggest tips I can give from what I saw recently, on top of everything else what I discussed in the previous videos.